So welcome to the stage. Welcome to these leaders who really are, as Amanda said, pioneers in this field and, developing cutting edge strategies within your unions. And we are here to talk about how tech is impacting workers. And I know that's how, don't get swallowed by the chair, I apologize. How is technology impacting workers, and is technology a workers' rights issue? And so I think we all can agree, for those of you who've been over to the show already, I don't know about y'all, but everything I saw, I asked myself, how is this going to impact workers and their jobs? And no one is talking about that over at the convention center. And so I think that's why, again, we're in this room and we're about to hear from these leaders. So let's just dive right in because they have so much expertise and we want to hear from each of them. So, Dee, I'm going to start with you. You're an early pioneer. We talked about bargaining strategies, and you heard Susie talk about the evolution of technology just from her own personal experience, and I know your membership has been grappling with this for many years. So how is, first of all, tech impacting your union and your members? And is technology a workers' rights issue?
Well, it's certainly impacting our members. And sometimes the impact you can't even anticipate, like the advent of Lyft and Uber has greatly affected the tips for bellmen and doors. For example, no one would think about that. Obviously, Susie talked about kiosks, iPads to order. I can go on. And the whole idea here is you're not going to stop technology. The question is, are we going to be at the table? And I can't think of a more important workers' rights issue, actually, in the labor movement. Living here in Las Vegas, I've been going to CES show a long time, but it was 2017 when I did the holy tamale. We are in deep trouble if we don't deal with this. And so we organized workers, and we showed them videos, not just of our crafts, like the bricklayer video. I mean, stuff outside of our industries, too, and how it could be applied to our jobs. So fighting for good contract language, because effects bargaining means you've already lost. And so contract language is important. But you have to, I hate the word educate our members, you have to expose our members to what's out there. That's our responsibility as leaders. Second, I think very strongly, you got to figure out where tech is and figure out how you can develop partnerships. Our union has developed a very good partnership with Carnegie Mellon because they do all the tech for the Defense Department, and Google and all these gigantic firms are in Pittsburgh right next to Carnegie Mellon, and then try to figure out how tech can be used to your advantage. So, for example, the idea of the hiring hall, that's, I don't know about y'all, but everybody lives on their phones now. They don't want to have to call or go down, and how we can use technology, which we've done. We've partnered with a tech company so people can get jobs in a very mobile way of how they operate. Those are some ideas. But anywhere you go, tech has definitely affected. Like when you fly out of any airport now, there are very few servers. There are people who bring food to you. I remember sitting at the bar in Minneapolis, and I said, "Can I have some beer?" And the guy goes, "No, you got to swipe your card first." And I was like, "Okay, things have changed. I know I'm old, but I still like to have service." So those are just some ideas.
Incredible. So obviously the importance of educating your members, like that OSHIT moment that, we've all had. And for those of you who've been sitting in this room going, yeah, I'm feeling that right now. The collective bargaining strategies, the second thing you mentioned, Dee, is, getting to the table and having those guardrails and sharing language and best practices. And that's what this summit is all about. And then the partnerships aspect, what I heard. And someone who's an expert at partnerships, I'm going to turn it over to Randy to talk about how tech is impacting your members and it being a workers' rights issue, but also to touch on some of the partnerships that you have been building.
So, look, I remember last year versus this year. It's awesome to see this many people in this room this year. And I also just want to do the same kind of shout out that Duncan did to both Liz, but also to SAG-AFTRA. I think that this year, and Dee did, and it was that oh shit moment. Dee, I'm on the East Coast, Dee's on the West Coast. He gets up earlier than I do, and I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So all of a sudden, I'll get a text from him. Did you read this yet? Because Dee also does what many of us try to do now, which is how do we share information with each other? But what SAG-AFTRA did this year, that the writers, I think, are going to be here this afternoon too as well, but the work that you've done over the course of really pushing all of us to imagine the future and to seize the future and not be afraid of the future and try to figure out how we are engaged in and empower ourselves and our members by. That's something that this conference has done for a while, and Dee has been hugely important to that. But so has SAG-AFTRA. And I think that the story that I tell myself this year, and that is particularly having a son-in-law who is a writer and was on strike for all that time, is that watching the two unions, I know we all helped, but watching the two unions really, or three unions, really focus on how to fight through AI and how to actually get that kind of contract language you're talking about, Dee, so that we weren't, because I do agree with Dee that affects when we get to negotiating the impact as opposed to negotiating the terrain, we're already behind the 8 ball. So I just really want to have a shout out to SAG-AFTRA for the imagination for this conference and for actually circling it by that language. And the last person, and then I'll answer your question quickly. The last person is that what Liz does here is instead of being scared of things, she seizes the opportunity. She sees all of us. We would not be in labor if we couldn't figure out how to say paragraphs of why things are bad. I think that is part of our DNA. It's less part of our DNA, Fred just laughed. It's less part of our DNA to actually seize the opportunity and imagine the future. And I would say that Liz Shuler is unique in that regard, and the difference between this year and last year and seeing opportunity, even in a very dark time, a lot of that, Liz, is because of you, so thank you. And so having said that, what has happened in terms of education is that it's a different kind of story about how big tech tried to replace us. About 20 years ago, there was this big replacement push from the non-AI version of technology, because most of the billionaire class actually believe in something that is really sickening to me, which is they believe that if you can't, you teach. And they are really disparaging about teachers. And so they thought that they could replace us, Gates and others. What happened in terms of the ed tech field, and immediately a lot of our members were very upset and reactive to it, even though now, frankly, 70% of our members use tech every single day. Every single day. But what essentially happened was that they couldn't replace us, at least not in K-12. And when they tried, they did it badly. they're still trying. But what many of us learned, and I have a bunch of staff members here who were part of that process, is that if we try to create the power of design and the power of working with, even though we may really hate this billionaire class, but if we actually start engaging with and working with and trying to understand that you can work with people even if you don't like them, that we have to engage in that real way. And we have to engage in the design, but we also have to engage in the education. Because if you are actually only on the receiving end of doing the impact of or the implementation of, as opposed to really feeling the confidence of understanding the right questions to ask, and that was a really important piece. So the partnerships came from the fact that EdTech tried to kill us. They couldn't. They realized to make money, they had to actually work with educators. And we understood that that was important to do that work. Now, last thing I'll say is, the oh shit moment for me was EdTech and technology in itself is quite different than generative AI. Because at the end of the day, this is not simply a matter of, I mean, there's all the issues about displacement, there's all the issues about disinformation, there's all of the issues about privacy and all of the tools, all of those issues. But at the end of the day, the oh shit moment for me was, if we do not actually understand how to master these tools and have the power of being a voice at the table, human beings will not run the world, but machines will. So our oh shit moment now and opportunity moment now is that human beings need to run the world, not machines. So I end by saying it's not simply collective bargaining, but it is society. And we as a labor movement who represent the workers of society and civilized society, we have an obligation to harness what we see so that human beings will run this world, a world that hopefully will also have a sustainable climate and a democracy in this country. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Randy, and also for standing up against all odds and the forces that are constantly attacking you, those ed tech people, the right wing, et cetera. I just want to say thank you for being such an inspiration to all of us, really. So we have a theme here, Linda. It's called the oh shit moment.
Oh shit.
So tell us a little, you've had a little experience with AI, particularly recently, and I would say that SAG-AFTRA is sort of the original technology union, because as Duncan said, you guys have been coming here for decades, because your industry is constantly evolving and changing with technology, and you've said, we want to be on the front edge, and we want to empower workers, to Randy's point, you know, seize the opportunities. So tell us a little bit about what your members have been enduring. We all have heard from the national stage, of course, in your strike, but, and why is this a workers' rights issue?
I think the whole country has been watching a little bit of what the union's been going through the past year now. I think we had no shit moment in the country with the ChatGPT and the OpenAI, but our union, like Duncan said, has been working for probably 5-6 years to prepare for the negotiation we just went through, because we saw what was coming and we were exploring what the contract language should look like, what are the biggest obstacles going to be. But I have to say, as a member going into the plenary and going into the W&Ws, I had a real oh shit moment when we sat down and started talking about digital doubles, digital replicas. I had to take a minute and go, do I want to do this? Is this the way the world is going? Am I going to want to be an actor if this is the way that the industry is going? SAG-AFTRA actors unions are always, adjusting to the way that the industry moves from the beginning. Our merger came about because of changes in technology. We've been dealing with the streaming industry and the way that it's changed, the way that everything gets distributed. So it's not too new territory for us, but it seems so much bigger now. And I think our negotiation and our strike happening, and then the open AI and the ChatGPT coming right on the heels of that, I think it's just this sign that we are in a moment. We are all living through, and we're leaders, and we're all negotiating this moment in history together. It's a big deal. And I remind myself that it is urgent, but it's still early. And like Randy said, we have the opportunity to not just be chasing after the way the advances are going, but trying to shape where they're going to go as workers, as citizens, as humans. And it's an opportunity because the technology also has the possibility of making life better for us if we can harness it the right way. We have a lot of contracts coming up that have some of these same issues in them, so we're going to try and build on the stuff that we've had, because the generative AI remains a really big piece that it's hard to wrap your heads around. It's hard to wrap contract language around. It's hard to wrap legal language around. We're going to see how some of these lawsuits that are being thrown out now. I think the biggest threat for us with generative AI is the synthetic performers, which are still a little ways down the road before they become, we hope, if they ever become something that can replace a performer. But I think that remains to be seen. I think it remains to be seen the same way they thought they could replace teachers. Are they really going to be able to replace a performance? I don't think so. But that doesn't mean they won't find ways to train audiences to accept less in certain circumstances, because they're always going to be trying to maximize profit, and expediency is king. And we're used to chasing after them. We're used to putting fences around. I think we got a lot done this summer, and I'm proud of us for that. And there's still a lot more work to do. The thing that's been great is I feel like we're all in this together. The solidarity that we felt, and I just want to thank everyone for that, because the way that we all worked together and got things done, it was so good for us as a union. It was good for our members to see. It was good for us to meet each other and be with each other and share each other's ideas and hopes and fears. And the more we can do of that, I think the better.
Linda, couldn't agree more. And I know we got started late, so I'm hoping that we have time for another round of questions. I know we're up against time already. Okay, a rapid fire round to end the panel here. For those of the audience members who are thinking about how this is impacting their union, what can I do? Maybe we can end with, thinking about our role in helping our members navigate technology, and what piece of advice would you give to some of the leaders in the room, having gone through what you've been through? What can they be doing when they go home? Who wants to start?
I'd say don't dismiss people's fears. We know a lot more than some of the people who aren't as steeped in some of these conversations, and so when you go out and talk to people, meet them where they are, and try and explain what you can, what you can't do, and build them up. Don't dismiss where they are in the conversation.
It's real. As we said, that statistic, 70% of workers believe, that they're threatened. Their job is threatened.
Yeah, 70% believe they're threatened, but it's not them, often when you talk to them. I actually think that it's extremely important in negotiating language or anything. AI's very basis is to evolve and get more efficient, as they say, and smarter. So do not negotiate static language, because what you've negotiated now could easily change in 6 months or a year, because it evolves. And if you don't anticipate that, you would have negotiated something good here, but now with the evolution, you need to be here, and you need to reopen and deal with new problems or new issues that evolve from that. That's one thing I have thought a lot about, because often when we do contract language, we negotiate in the moment, and we do not negotiate knowing things are going to evolve. And I think that's extremely important with tech, The only thing else I'd say with tech is this. I think that it's great the labor movement is involved with this, but let's be honest, we're a small percentage of the workforce. Politicians have no answer when you say, okay, what's going to happen when these jobs get replaced? They just have this blank look. I think we have to look at, listen, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft control all the data. That occurred, just so you know, the government used to control the data, but in Newt Gingrich's contract for America in 1994, this was part of it. So the bill in 1996 essentially privatized the data. And I think we've got to start dealing with that because it's a massive invasion of privacy, and it's also a massive invasion about how we're going to be manipulated. So that was my only comment, too.
So true, and I think we can have some strange bedfellows come together around that issue. Yeah. Okay, Randy, bring us home.
Test it. So I think we have to, I want to just say what you said as well. We have to meet people where they are. And that means really educating people. I'm looking at Rob Weil, and I will never forget the day in our executive council. Rob, just wave so that people can see you. Rob, we had our whole executive council, and he did a ChatGPT exercise. And you had to see everyone's faces just looking at what the power of ChatGPT is. So I think we have to make sure we bring our members along and we figure out values to actions on so many of these issues. And there's a huge role for the Tech Institute, but we really have to think about how we as a consortium work together, sharing contract language, sharing experiences, but also what we need to do with the federal government so that those mistakes, the one about data, the one about immunity for social media companies, don't get replayed. So there's a huge role for us as a federation of unions, and this conference is the way we start each year anew with actually working together. Last thing I'll say is together we will be able to not only fight this off, but harness it. But we can only do that together. Thank you.
So well put. Thank you so much. Let's thank these leaders, Dee Taylor, Randy Weingarten, and thank you so much, Linda, for bringing the experience that you had from the strike. Onward, and as Linda said, we do this together, and together we are more powerful. What better than that? Thank you so much.